Hello, my name is Jerry Wise, and I am a marriage and family expert. I provide client professional help in the office, via Skype, via FaceTime, or phone, no matter where my clients live, and even in the comfort of their own living room. Today's video is entitled, Setting Boundaries is Not Emotionally Cutting Off. I have many people come to me and ask me about the family system's understanding of emotional cutoff and boundaries, and many times people equate setting boundaries, distancing, moving away with their family of origin, in their family of origin milieu or context, as cutting off. Or they equate all of those things as not cutting off. And what I want to say is, if you get nothing else from this video, that what I'd like to say is that two people can do the very same thing in terms of boundaries, and one be an emotional cutoff and the other not be an emotional cutoff. And that's what I'd like to talk about in this video today. And why are emotional cutoffs a problem? That's another thing people ask me about. Because it cementizes or solidifies dysfunctional patterns within us. We're all immobile, where everybody's connected and all their strings are connected as the mobile hangs. And if you pull one part, it pulls on the other parts. Or we're all connected in our family of origin, or in society actually, but family of origin for sure, with rubber bands, and we all try to move and twist, but whenever we move it affects someone else over there, because we do have this intergenerational transmission of emotional field, the emotional life of the family. There is a connectedness between us. If we ignore it at our peril. If we don't ignore it, we can find ways out and find ways to become not our family and to become ourselves. And again, not our family doesn't mean I blame my family. It just means I want to be me, not me, my family, me/my family. I just want to be me while I am connected to my family, and that continues on throughout my life. Whether I ever see them or not, it still continues on throughout my life. An emotional cutoff is a process of emotional distancing. An emotional cutoff occurs when we do not feel we have any other options to survive emotionally, or we can survive safely. We then set up external boundaries to deal with this emotional craziness, that emotional craziness that we feel inside, or what we believe the other is causing us to do. That's emotional cutoff language. Unresolved emotional attachments with our family of origin creates and causes emotional cutoff in adult life. And again, people say, well, why does that matter? Because emotional cutoffs in one area of your life can affect emotional cutoffs in other areas of your life. So it's not like we can just do it over here and it not happen over here. Such as, I want you to show me any marriage, any relationship, where one of the spouses have completely cut off from their parents and their family of origin, and that it does not affect their marriage in a negative way. I have just not found anyone. Maybe you know someone, maybe you're the exception. So you don't have to write me and tell me you're the exception. I understand you might be. But for the majority of people, it does affect them in a negative way in their current adult relationships. Many people will say it doesn't affect me, and I'm much happier and better off. I understand you're happier, and I don't deny that. But I'm not sure it doesn't affect you in your current relationship. Many times people are in denial about that because they just want to believe they made a good decision and feel guiltless or not guilty about cutting off from their family, who might be very toxic and very unhealthy. Setting boundaries is a process of emotion it is a process of the emotionally mature adult self. It's let me repeat that again. Setting boundaries is the process of the emotional mature adult self choosing to limit the chaos or toxicity of others. But it is not an emotionally distancing process. An emotional cutoff does not really get us emotionally distant. That's the whole point that I've tried to make about emotional cutoffs. Many people feel they're emotionally distant when they emotionally cut off. The problem is you're just reacting to the overcloseness. And 180 degrees from sick is still sick. 180 degrees. And whereas boundary setting by a mature adult self isn't a 180 degree. It's a 90 degree act rather than 0 to 180 degrees. Emotional cutoffs does not really get us emotionally distant. It gets us some geographical distance. It gets us, well, I don't talk to my parents anymore. It gets us, I don't talk to my siblings anymore. It gets us to where it's not in my face. I understand that, and that can feel a little better. It really can. But I'm not sure it resolves it. And it actually functions as an enmeshment process. So that emotional cutoff functions as an enmeshment. We get too close because we're too distant. Intimacy is a paradoxical thing. And a paradox is you do the counterintuitive to get what you want rather than the intuitive, what you think should work. We do what doesn't work. Much like I was showing someone the fact of the Chinese finger cuffs. In fact, I see some right here. Sorry, I did have some right here, and I just used them as an example. Here's the Chinese finger cuffs. You put your, this is bamboo, so it's kind of, it's stretchy. And of course, the more you pull, the tighter it becomes and you can't get out. But our intuitive sense is, let me out, I want out. And that's what emotional cutoff is. And what actually emotional cutoff is it tightens that bond. Now, it tightens us emotionally. Again, we may not see our family of origin, but I'm talking about the internal emotional process. So it tightens that. Whereas the counterintuitive process, which is to do what you don't think is natural or normal, is to push in. And when you push in, you then, well, if this would work right, but you push in, you can see it loosens the bonds. It's just I can't get it. It's still pretty tight. But the point is, it loosens the bonds, because I couldn't get out at all if I didn't loosen them. So it loosens them, and then I'm able to move out and leave this over here. And then I have true separation or true separateness, rather than this false kind of separateness where I'm just pulling and thinking I'm away. I want to be able to truly detach. Not just superficially detach. I want to detach emotionally, not just on the map. Or, okay, I'm not going to go to the holiday dinners. That'll be my emotional, detachment. Setting boundaries, again, is the process of an emotionally mature adult self choosing limits. And that's okay. It's not an emotional distancing process. And again, emotional cutoffs actually attach us more internally to our family of origin, often not less, because we have effects of it in other relationships and other areas of our life. It also has an intergenerational flow. And we transmit that intergenerational emotional toxicity to our kids, because we've cut off from unhealthy family. They then see that cut off as a healthy thing or normal thing to do. They're cut off from some of the knowledge of their family, and then it goes on, and they get married, and then they have troubles and problems, and that's how we know family systems affects marriages and adult relationships. Emotional cutoff is what I call pseudo-independence. Pseudo-independence does not really free or function in healthy adults. Pseudo-independence is not healthy adulthood. True independence is. Pseudo isn't. And again, if I say, well, I'm going to be successful and I'll never need to ask my parents for help again. I'll never need to ask an ex-wife for help again. And I'll make enough money so I can be on my own. And I won't have to depend on anyone or trust anyone. Now, I may become independent, but it's kind of pseudo-independence. My emotional life is still way over connected to an ex-wife or parents or whomever I'm trying to be independent from. I still have too much of a focus on that. Actually, our unhealthy, immature inner child is trying to act like an adult. And I try to help people not try to act like an adult, but to act like and become an adult emotionally, where they don't have to run away or cut off from others. The emotional cutoffs are the process of falling off on the side of too much distance or separateness, as we try to get away from the too much closeness or togetherness we feel with the other or with our family. A classic example of this is the most classic example of an immature emotional cutoff. When someone says, I don't believe in going back to my family of origin or doing past work or present work on the family of origin. I just believe I'm an adult now and need to learn to live as an adult. I don't need them anymore. Why focus on them? Just give me tools to live for today. That family of origin stuff is just to keep you a victim and to blame your parents and is a waste of time. So what the person has decided to do is they're never going to see their parents again, and they've cut off from unhealthy siblings. And people will come to me in that state and say, okay, now just give me tools to live. Well, how are you not living then? If you're independent and because their life is not working well. And they know that, and they think it has nothing to do with any of that cutoff. And I usually tend to say, you've got a bunch of issues in there that you keep stumbling over. I'm not saying, and again, they think I'm suggesting they might want to be best friends with their parents or best friends with their siblings. You don't have to be best friends with your siblings. You don't have to be best friends with your family or your parents. That's not what healthy, mature adults do. In fact, healthy, mature adults can even admit to the fact and believe the fact that, if I were choosing friends, I probably wouldn't choose my parents as friends. If I just met them I probably wouldn't even choose them. Or my siblings. They're not like me. That's okay. They don't have to be like you. Can you accept them being not like you and you not like them and not cut off? That's the real goal and trick. I don't have to treat them as though I just love spending time with them. I may not love spending time with them. But cutting off tends to sabotage or derail that maturing process. It would almost be like a 14-year-old running away from their family at 14 and never going back. Do you think that will ever have any impact on their life? Well, it generally tends to. Now, I understand there can be some circumstances in which survival is needful for us to do that. So for all of you who are going to write and say, well, my family's different, I understand. There are times in which, I might recommend. You can't do anything, but then I still recommend to them. Even if you're going to not see your parents, not talk to them, not talk to your siblings, okay, that's cool. What are you going to do about the siblings and the parents that are inside you? Let's work on that, because that's still going to help you not cut off. And it's going to be a positive thing to do that. I'm not telling you to go visit them for Christmas. What I'm telling you to do is let's work on the issues that they create for you internally. because just cutting off from them doesn't solve that. Another example of emotional cutoff, Mary had a dysfunctional family, alcoholic family, and very codependent and victim, an under-functioning mother, alcoholic father. The sister moves closer to the mother. Excuse me, I've got that. No, the mother was alcoholic. The father was very codependent, but the mother was very high functioning. The sister moves closer to Mary, and Mary, so that she, the sister, is now synergizing with Mary, and they're getting along. Now that she's moved closer and also closer to their mother, Mary's sister and the mother are now getting closer, leaving Mary out. So they've formed an unhealthy bond that leaves Mary out of the system, creating a triangle. So Mary chooses to distance herself from her toxic mother and from her toxic sister, but does this due to her jealousy of her sister and desire for a healthier relationship with her mom she just started to have before her sister moved close to them. So now she is more distant and feels more settled inside, but she's still left with the painful jealousy, neediness, hurt, and loneliness. That's the problem. You might feel more settled or more relaxed, but you got all this emotional roiling going on inside. Let me share with you what an emotional cutoff is. Then I'll share what healthy boundaries are like. Emotional cutoff, I act with leftover feelings I don't deal with and choose to distance myself from another or others rather than deal with those feelings. That's the basis of an emotional cutoff. That's what underlies it. I disconnect because I can't handle the relationship emotionally. I use emotional cutoff as a means to change my family of origin or to get them to value me more or to be more empathetic. Well, I'll just punish them. Whenever we cut off to punish, and again, that can be kind of unconscious because we may not realize that. Whenever we cut off to try to punish, that's an emotional cutoff. That's not boundaries. Well, I'm going to set these boundaries. I'm just not going to text or call them anymore. Actually, what we want to do is punish them and change them so that they'll respect us or care about us more. That's an emotional cutoff. That's not boundaries. That's not healthy, mature boundaries. I use my black and white thinking or all or nothing thinking to decide I need to cut off. And again, someone is either all good or all bad. And often cutoffs have to do with that. Acting in the relationship out of irrational expectations or unfulfilled fantasies of the other will result in cutoff or enmeshment. And again, we have these unrealistic expectations. Just as Mary had the expectations with her alcoholic mom, who's high functioning, and so she can relate to her, but the problem is she's hoping her mom will become the mom she always wanted. And now Mary's sister is come in and kind of undermine that process. But the problem is she's more likely to cut off because she's still hoping for the mom she never had. Now, I believe Mom and Mary can have a better relationship because the more calming we do and the more maturing we do as individuals, we actually end up, it tends to lift all boats on the ocean. And so we can have oftentimes a slightly better relationship with a parent that we'd like to relate to. But the thing is, it's never going to be enough to turn them into the fantasy parent that we always wanted. We still have to deal with us, our needs, and taking care of us, and not change them so that I can be happy. Otherwise, we're going to end up getting disappointed, mad, hurt, jealous, and we're going to cut off. So, what is not emotional cutoff? Or what are maybe healthy boundaries? Setting boundaries which are based in my own choosing, values, and beliefs, not to punish or change them, or because I can't handle it emotionally. For example, well, I'll give you some examples. Not tolerating unhealthy or toxic behavior can be a boundary. If you are going to swear at me and all you're going to do is swear, I don't like that. That's abusive. It's emotional verbal abuse. So what we'll need to do is limit our interaction to texting or to email, because I don't want to hear those verbal discounts. So that's a boundary. And, I've asked you many times and you haven't respected that. So we're going to go to that. And then eventually, let's just say worst case, the person has cussing Tourette's. They can't stop cussing you because they're mad, they're angry, or they're alcoholic, or who knows what the problems are they're having, because they've had their own problems. And we may have to say, I'm not going to be communicating to you except through letter, because I don't want to subject myself to the verbal abuse. Now, we can say I can't stand it. What I'd want to go work on is me being able to stand it more while telling them I'm not going to take it anymore. But I want to work on increasing my ability to have a more emotional, tougher skin and see them as not well and not take their words personally. I want to be neutral about what they're doing. If a JCPenney clerk cusses at me, that's not going to bother me all that much. I'm going to go, I wonder what's wrong with her. I wonder what's wrong with him. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to take it so personally. That's where I want to get to that neutrality state. Setting boundaries are about having non-negotiables. It's about staying in place emotionally and not moving emotionally. It's working to stay in place at the 90-degree level, not either going to the 0 or the 180. And that's not always easy, but it's a worthwhile goal. And then boundaries are appropriate when we avoid abuse. I don't want to be abused, so I'm not going to be hit or screamed at or shamed. And I'll say, hey, we're going to have to change this. I'm going to work on not caring about the shaming or the cussing. I'm going to work on not caring about that. While at the same time, I'm going to go, no, this is not okay. It is okay for us to set boundaries, create distance for safety and for someone who does not respect my non-negotiables. In other words, if I'm coming to talk with my uncle and he wants me to visit, and I'm going, we don't believe the same things politically, let's say, or religiously, or whatever hot items, and all he can do is talk about politics, then I might say, hey, I'm kind of interested in talking about something else. How's the barn that you're building? How is that coming along? And if he keeps trying to evangelize me to his political or religious view, then what I need to do is work on staying out of that game and messing up that game. Versus, I'm never going over there again because he just keeps pushing my buttons. I don't believe the way he believes, and I'm so mad at him, and I wish he'd stop. Well, there are ways I can change the subject, or even say, okay, you're right. That you like, this political candidate or that political candidate. Maybe they're on both different sides of the same of the spectrum, and I can say, sure, they're great. They're just great. And, then I'm going to be one who's not going to be one to fight with. There's no argument we're going to have because it doesn't mean anything to me. So there is no argument. And I'm interested in changing the process, not just the content. The content I don't care about. No president has called me for my advice. No president has called my uncle for his advice. So what? We're one vote. I mean, that's who we are. Not that vote is unimportant, but that's how much power I have. And so I realize the limitations of my power to change things. So in brief, many ask me, why would I be asking someone to stay in emotional contact with an unhealthy family member? I don't ask anyone to stay in close proximity or over close friendship or acceptance of very toxic family members' behaviors. And when I say staying in emotional contact, that doesn't mean You're talking with them all the time and actually having that one-on-one contact with them all the time. What I mean is stay emotionally contact with them within you so you can deal with the ravages and what has affected you internally. That's what I mean by staying in emotional contact. What I feel is the most healthy is to stay emotionally connected, meaning emotionally neutral, while having healthy boundaries with unhealthy people and unhealthy family members. Again, the goal is to grow emotional neutrality and healthy boundaries. We are aiming at setting boundaries without emotional reactivity. Two people can set the same boundary, as I've said before. One can be neutral and one can be emotional reactivity. One neutral, one reactive. Same boundary. And what I suggest people do is not do the reactive. And that takes some learning and time and some help. And I think it takes some help from a coach or for a relationship expert. So it is not the boundary that defines the cutoff, but our internal emotional state, connectedness, enmeshment, and reactivity that defines the emotional cutoff. This is what I believe is the goal. This is what I believe is the goal and is very possible to attain. I have been helping people attain this for 35 plus years. And I know it works, and they usually come back and thank me many times for that help. It's not because I'm any genius or smart or so brilliant. It's that I have and know ways to help them achieve that, and that they're grateful for. But that's my job. If you'd like to learn more about emotional cutoffs, healthy boundaries, emotional neutrality, with those who have imprinted your life, your family of origin, your spouses, children, grandparents, and you can start, if you'd like to learn more about those things, contact me and you can start your work towards maturity, freedom, reducing emotional reactivity, and feeling strong and having a strong emotional backbone. If you just want to set up a one-time consultation, that's fine. I'm happy to do this to see if I'm the right professional for you to work with. I do charge for that consultation. However, you don't owe me future sessions. You can work as much as you want. I have people who meet 3 times a week. I have people who meet once every month or month and a half. I mean, it depends on where you are and what you're trying to achieve. Please see my contact information on the screen. I should have my email address and my phone number. If you want free resources, you can contact me and I'll send them to you, and also send you information about working with me. No matter what country you're in. Unfortunately, I just speak English, so we primarily work with the English speaking. I wish I spoke more. I did take German, but I don't speak enough German to do well enough in a coaching session. Please join our YouTube, Facebook channel. I want to thank you for watching, and have a great day.